From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger, taking a live look outside tonight from the Stockman Bank weather cam as bone-chilling cold temperatures have settled in over the Magic City with no immediate relief in sight. Certainly what everyone is talking about and trying to avoid. We turn to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. And Ed, we're used to cold in Montana, but when was the last time it was this cold?
You know, it's been a while. I had a great email from Rick, one of our viewers, who was talking about some cold temperatures along the High Line, and it got me thinking. Over the last 50 years, if we just measure the coldest temperature that we've had each year, our average has actually gone up 4.5 degrees, but this is going to be an especially cold stretch. Last time we saw temperatures at -20 was back in 2014. We have several opportunities in Billings to see temperatures at -20 or colder this week. -7 for a daytime high or colder. Last time that happened was 2013. Again, that could be later on this week. We may be in the double digits for our daytime high below zero. And we've already had 3 days in a row where our high temperature has been at 0 or colder, and it looks like we're going to have more of that tomorrow. We'll talk more about those details coming up.
All right, thank you, Ed. We all know these frigid temperatures are not a sure sign to shut down school in Montana. Although temperatures and wind chill make for dangerous conditions, there's a lot that plays into daily decisions. That includes constant communication between school officials, bus officials, and weather experts. District 2 Superintendent Greg Upham says there's a lot to consider in the big picture.
Well, it's just not as easy as canceling school because for some of our students, it's the only food they get. For one, and there's safety and security there. We also have a workforce that depends on us to do our job and so that they can do their job. So it's all intermingled. But you know, it does come down to safety. And as I visit with our meteorologists, they give me worst case scenarios because that's what we'll base decisions off of. And so we're looking at some cold temps, and we'll monitor it through the week. At this point in time, we plan on being in school throughout the week. But if that changes, we'll make those announcements and we'll watch it very closely.
Upham says make sure to get your contact information with the school updated for future robocalls and emails. He says parents and students should know where the alternate bus routes are. Make sure your children are dressed for the weather. Please wait at the bus stop with them until the bus picks them up. Now, there's a complete list of safety tips and links to connect you with the district in this story on ktvq.com. And Upham also points out that parents do have a right to keep their children home if they feel it's unsafe having them walk or wait for a bus. The Senate will move forward with the second impeachment trial of former President Trump. In a 56-44 vote, the senators agreed they have jurisdiction over the case. Natalie Brand has more tonight from Capitol Hill.
House impeachment managers opened former President Donald Trump's second impeachment trial with a video showing scenes from the attack on the Capitol last month, taking senators who are now jurors back to the events of that day.
The president was impeached by the U.S. House of Representatives on January 13th for doing that. If that's not an impeachable offense, then there is no such thing.
Presidents can't inflame insurrection in their final weeks and then walk away like nothing happened.
Attorneys for the former president argued that the trial is unconstitutional because Mr. Trump is no longer in the White House.
This is not just about Donald Trump or any individual. This is about our Constitution and abusing the impeachment power for political gain.
Day one wrapped with a majority of senators voting to move forward.
On this vote, the ayes are 56, the nays are 44. The Senate shall proceed with the trial.
6 Senate Republicans joined with Democrats. One of those GOP senators was Louisiana's Bill Cassidy.
President Trump's team were disorganized. They did everything they could but to talk about the question at hand. And when they talked about it, they kind of glided over it, almost as if they were embarrassed of their arguments.
Sources familiar with Mr. Trump's reaction to Tuesday's proceedings described the former president as angry at his lawyers' lackluster performances. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Opening arguments slated to start at noon tomorrow. Each side will have up to 16 hours to make their case. Well, in the second impeachment trial, Montana's 2 U.S. senators are once again cast in the role of jurors, deciding whether to convict or acquit the former president. Before the proceedings began this afternoon in Washington, they spoke with MTN and, as you might expect, had very different takes on the trial.
Trump is not the president. He is a private citizen, and the Chief Justice is not presiding. I think pursuing this impeachment trial would set a dangerous precedent as it relates to private citizens. And the question is, when does this stop? The crimes that were committed by those domestic terrorists who broke into our Capitol. They should be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
And if those acts were significant enough for incitement of violence, then he will be convicted. Well, at least I will vote to convict him. If they weren't significant enough to prove incitement for violence, then I'll vote acquittal.
Senators are expected to vote on Trump's fate as soon as this weekend. Over Montana Tech, some faculty have drafted a resolution to Faculty Senate expressing concerns of intimidation and in some cases even personal safety over a national student club that's starting a chapter there on the Butte campus. MTN's John Amy has details.
Some faculty and staff at Montana Tech in Butte are making claims that the recent approval of a conservative student group called Turning Point USA could lead to intimidation and even threats against professors and others on the campus.
This group is known for affiliating with racist and neo-Nazi and other alt-right groups.
Turning Point USA's website says it promotes principles of limited government, capitalism, and freedom on campuses. However, some Montana Tech staff says it intimidates liberal professors by putting them on a national watch list.
Professors who have been put on that list have been subject to harassment, even to death threats.
The faculty members claim they're not against students or clubs that have conservative political views.
We don't want to suppress free speech. We don't want to in any way try to tell students what clubs they can or can't have. But we do want to promote awareness that this is a very dangerous road to go down. That when we start putting politics above truth.
And some faculty are concerned about the state's proposal to allow firearms on campus, which they believe could compound the problem.
Saying that people can bring guns to college campuses, I think that's extremely dangerous. And I think people are going to die. I really feel people are going to die as a result of this.
Those that support the legislation believe that having guns on campus will better protect people if violence should break out. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
Now, MTN did leave messages to Turning Point USA seeking comment on this story, but we have not heard back. Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen is among 14 attorneys general from across the country calling on President Biden to reconsider his decision to revoke the Keystone XL pipeline's presidential permit. The AG's letter points out the harm of Biden's decision, negating thousands of jobs and lost economic activity and opportunity. In Montana, for instance, Knudsen writes, killing Keystone XL will likely cost the state approximately $58 million in annual tax revenue. Some of the counties stand to lose their biggest property taxpayer, especially devastating, Knudsen points out, as 5 of the 6 impacted counties are designated high poverty areas. Now, the Keystone XL pipeline route would run some 285 miles, crossing through 6 counties. If completed, the pipeline would carry up to 830,000 barrels of oil per day from Alberta, Canada to Nebraska, then eventually on to Gulf Coast refineries. That letter also advises the president that the states are reviewing all available legal options to protect their citizens and interests. Also today, Senate Democrat Joe Manchin, the new chairman of the Senate Energy Committee, asked Biden to reconsider. Well, still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2 with no end in sight to this bitter cold. Furnaces working overtime. Up next, some helpful hints on how to avoid those home repair headaches. Then a little later in sports, from points to pins, it's a city duel on the mats between the Bronx and the Bears. The highlights on the way.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
With the bitterly cold temperatures, most of us will be turning up the heat, and that comes with an increased risk of fires. 1 in every 7 home fires and 1 in every 5 home fire deaths involves heating equipment. The Billings Fire Department offers up some tips. Those include plugging portable electric heaters directly into wall outlets, cleaning out chimneys and vents, and storing cooled ashes in a tightly covered metal container at least 10 feet from your house. It's also important to remember to keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet from any heat source like fireplaces, wood stoves, or space heaters. Portable generators should be kept outside and as far away from your home as possible. As is the case at all times of the year, make sure to check that all smoke alarms are in working order. And when temperatures go down like they are, chances go up for residents to experience problems like a faulty furnace or frozen pipes. Q2's Shaquille Kozart catches up with 2 Billings businesses to offer up some helpful advice.
Temperatures continue to drop. Heating and plumbing companies are receiving more calls regarding broken furnaces and frozen pipes. But what can be done to mitigate the sometimes costly effects of winter weather?
Well, the number one thing that we get a phone call on for this time of year is a no heat situation, and the biggest thing that we see is filters.
White says that filters need to be changed every 1 to 3 months depending on the home. He says that a dirty filter can trip a high temperature limit in the furnace, preventing it from running. It's important to have your furnace checked or inspected regularly, usually every year. He says that parts such as heat exchangers in a furnace can go bad and lead to harmful carbon monoxide levels. He also suggests investing in a carbon monoxide detector. Now, along with making sure that your furnaces are working properly throughout the winter, it's also important to ensure that the piping throughout your house doesn't freeze.
They can insulate them really well, find potential drafty areas that where wind can get to them, and block off those drafty areas or insulate extra well in those particular areas.
Lee says that they receive quite a few calls about broken pipes during this time of year, especially during the coldest days. He says that if you do notice you have frozen lines, to keep your faucets dripping to maintain a constant flow, and then call your plumber. Reporting in Billings, I'm Shaquille Kozart with MTN News.
Thanks, Shaquille. It's also important to remember to never use a blowtorch or other open flame in an attempt to thaw a frozen pipe. For more information, visit ktvq.com. All right, up next in weather, Ed says kind of a bad news, good news equation. The bad, even colder days are yet to come. The good, so are some warmer days. Your full 7-day forecast coming up after the break.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
Welcome back as we take a look at temperatures today. -3 was the warmest reading. We started at -9. Not a whole lot of wiggle room in there. We did have some light flurries, so we ended up recording 1/100th of an inch of precipitation by the time you start to melt that down. Now, as we get into the evening hours, we've started to see those temperatures slip only slightly. We're at -5 right now with a little southwest breeze. That does drive the wind chill value down. Even a little bit of a wind is making a bunch of difference right now. Always love to get your pictures and your videos. You can email us at weather@ktvq.com, or you can also download our free app and download videos. Like, check this out right now as the dog's running across the snow. Slow motion. Do you remember the $6 Million Man? You can hear it right now, can't you? Do, 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 do. Come on, guy. Come on, buddy. We've only got so much time. I'm going to have to move along. Temperatures this evening are anywhere from single digits below zero, 20s, 30s below. How about -30 right now in Cut Bank, 19 below in Great Falls. We have temperatures in the 20s below in right now, 26 below in Jordan. It's not quite as cold here in southern Montana, and the western portion of the state hasn't chilled off quite as much. Missoula's been the warm spot here for a couple of days at 16 degrees with a light wind. It's staying there with the wind chill value, but notice -42 already in Havre, and we're looking at 20s, 30s, 44 below right now is the wind chill value in Jordan in Garfield County. So all across the northern portion of the state, the gray shaded areas, again, we're looking at the potential of wind chill values of 50, -50 or greater as we start getting into the morning hours, and then -40 here at the blue shaded areas, including areas from Harleton Roundup, Baker southward, including Billings into northern Wyoming. Frigid cold temperatures, same story we've been talking about. The cold will stick around, but as this disturbance rolls across the area into the northwesterly flow heading into tomorrow, it pulls enough moisture across the cold air in place, we could start to see some snow showers develop, especially for the mountains, maybe just some of that grainy snow. But if it sets up the right way, we could see some larger flakes and see 1-2 inches of snow in a few places, especially into the mountains and the foothills around the Beartooths. Now, with the upper level system continuing to pull out of the northwest, we'll see some of that overrunning continue, bringing us a slight chance of snow through Friday. But Friday morning, Saturday into Sunday, we'll see some of the coldest temperatures where readings even in Billings could drop to -20 or colder in the morning and stay below zero once again throughout the afternoon. By the time we start getting to the end of the weekend and early next week, some of the warmer air moves in. We'll see the snow showers start to push back into the region. And while we try to warm up, the snow on the ground just isn't going to allow much of a warm up to get into early next week. Temperatures overnight anywhere from the 20s below zero to a lot of teens, maybe a single digit below zero somewhere. But everybody dealing with these cold wind chills from -40 to -55 first thing in the morning. Then by the afternoon, single digits above and below zero tomorrow. But notice that the potential for some of those snow showers starts to develop, and we'll see more of that into the mountain foothills. As far as snow accumulations, notice this gradual rise here as we take a look at our computer analysis, indicating that we could get some light snow, brush it off, then a little more, and that'll continue all the way right on in through Friday, when we could end up somewhere about 2 to 4 inches in the Billings area. But it won't seem like that much because it'll come a little bit at a time. Tomorrow, expect temperatures to stay below zero throughout the day. Chance of light snow showers develops by tomorrow afternoon and evening. Could continue to see a bit of light snow through Friday, but check out these cold overnight temperatures before we start to see a little bit of an upturn in those temperatures next week. Back to you, Russ.
Thanks, Ed. Straight ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. New findings suggest that the helicopter crash that took the life of NBA legend Kobe Bryant could have been prevented. We'll have details coming up after the break. The National Transportation Safety Board said today that the helicopter crash that killed basketball legend Kobe Bryant and his daughter, along with 7 others last year, could have been prevented. Chris Martinez reports on the findings of the NTSB investigation.
More than a year after a helicopter crash killed Lakers great Kobe Bryant and 8 others, federal safety investigators blamed the crash on pilot spatial disorientation.
We're talking about spatial disorientation, where literally the pilot may not know which way is up or down, whether he or she is leaning left or right.
Investigators say Arnaz, a highly experienced pilot, violated federal guidelines by flying in cloudy conditions where he likely became disoriented. They say once he entered the clouds at an airspeed of 140 knots or 161 miles per hour, he began a rapid climb of about 1,500 feet per minute while on a slight left bank.
What was he trained to do at that point?
It's very clear that slowing down is
slowing down.
Part of this.
Yet he kept going at 140.
Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and the other passengers were on their way to a youth basketball tournament when the helicopter encountered fog and crashed into the hills in the San Fernando Valley. The NTSB says in the last decade, there have been 184 fatal aircraft accidents related to spatial disorientation, 20 of which were fatal helicopter accidents. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Now, aviation experts have speculated that the crash could lead the NTSB to require all helicopters to have a terrain awareness and warning system, also known as TAWS, to prevent similar crashes. We'll be right back with a look at sports. A little bit of basketball and wrestling on this Tuesday night. Scott opens up our coverage on the mats.
Yes, thank you. Over at Billings West tonight under the Golden Dome for some dynamite duel action between the Bears and Billings Senior. Keep in mind, West just last month won its first duel over the Bronx in about a decade. They dimmed the lights for this one on senior night. 103, freshman Kian Hernandez still unbeaten for West, facing junior Madrid. Hernandez quickly scoring points in the first. That leads to a second period pin. and the freshman still unbeaten, ahead to 126. Another top gun for the Bears. Sophomore Jesse Arnaz versus second-ranked Logan Cole. Tight match, but how about this move from Arnaz? And 34 seconds into the second, he picks up the pin for a 15-6 West lead. Seniors Idrin Peak ranked number 1 at 132, but wrestling up at 138 tonight, dealing with third-ranked RJ Lowdog. In the second, Peak spins in for a takedown. Idrin Peak wins it for Senior to even the match at 15. Back and forth they go at 152, another top-ranked guy for West. Junior Drake Rhodes against Cruz Rojas. Rhodes with a late first period 2-zip lead. Add 3 more. He wins an 11-zip decision to put West back up by a point. Ahead to 170, Thomas Kleps chasing another state title for Senior. Freshman Cooper Freitag trying to slow him down. Kleps put it away here in the third for a Tech Fall win. Senior with momentum, now leading 29-19. Next weight class, 182 pounds. It got good here. Seniors Peyton Morton ranked number 1 in the state against 4th-ranked Chris Garcia for West. Second period and a stunning turn. Garcia pins him to knock off number 1 in AA. That sends the Dome into a frenzy, and the Bears suddenly back within 29-25. Charlie Demaray now can win it for Senior if he beats Eli Madland in the next match at 205 pounds. It was tight until Demaray earns the pin. That vaulted Senior fans onto their feet as the Bronx win a thriller. 35-31. Tell you what, not a wrestler out there that didn't leave every ounce of sweat on that mat. Scott Breen, MTN Sports.
All right, thanks, Scott. Over on the basketball court, fans were treated to quite a show tonight between Huntley Project and Colstrip. Here's Alec Boffinger with the highlights.
Back on January 15th, the Huntley Project boys escaped Colstrip with a 52-50 victory, courtesy of a Noah Bouchard buzzer beater. Now the Red Devils go for a sweep of the Colts tonight in a non-conference battle between district leaders in the Southern B. Project executing right away. Bouchard tips it to Jake Fox, who finds Dante Wolfile for the bucket less than 5 seconds in. Colstrip would settle in though. Caleb Cole down low with the little baby hook for 2. Then the big man is going to show off the range. Drills this triple from straight on as he had the Colts' first 10 points of the game. This one was back and forth throughout though. Tim Rose misses the pull-up jumper for the Red Devils, but Noah Bouchard is there to clean up the mess. Once again, the Colts have an answer. Riley Smallfisher pulls this one from way downtown and finds nothing but the bottom of the net, and it's tied at 29 at halftime. Second half, Project building a lead. Jake Fox banging in the post and gets the hoop and the harm. Then Bouchard showing off his skill set. Fadeaway a la Dirk Nowitzki splashes through. He led all scorers with 28 tonight. Next trip down the floor, Rose whips it inside to Bouchard, who flushes down the one-hand jam, and Project is up 7 with just over 3 minutes to play. But Colstrip would mount a comeback, now down 3 late, and it's Cole who lets it fly from deep, and he cans it to tie the game at 51 with 17.2 seconds left to force overtime. And it was a slugfest in the extra session. Cole muscles this one up and in for the final 2 of his team-high 23 points, as the Colts steal it from the free throw line for a 55-53 road victory. We'll have more from Cole on his big night at montanasports.com. For MTN Sports, I'm Alec Boffinger.
All right, thanks, Alec. And as Alec just mentioned, you can find all the highlights and scores from around the state on montanasports.com. We'll send it back over to Ed for a final look at the forecast. Ed?
But check this out, Russ. Our dog is still slow motion running at the camera here, but he'll get there eventually, making his way through the snow. You know, that pace is about what this cold weather feels like right now. It just keeps going and going and going. Let's take a look. Temperatures are going to be very cold overnight, dropping down into the teens below 0 and staying below 0 all day tomorrow. Some light snow off and on throughout the day, but it'll increase as we start getting into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Don't expect a lot of accumulation, but gradually it'll just continue to build up a bit over the course of the next several days. The temperatures don't build up. In fact, we can see some really cold overnight lows, especially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday mornings, and then things will start to turn around a bit. But all the sun's energy is going to go into trying to melt some of that snow, and if the winds pick up just a little bit, some of that light snow over the next several days could blow around a bit heading into next week as well. So we're still looking at quite a pattern before we'll start to see a real significant warm up in the temperatures and get back to more average wintertime conditions.
All right, look forward to that. Thank you, Ed. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great night. We're back tomorrow morning starting at 5 a.m.